I know what you might be thinking, oh, isn't this a little too soon? You just did a video about Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. Well, I have 13 other videos on this channel talking about Cade Cunningham as well, so I really don't care. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about on this channel. I have almost 400 other videos on this channel that aren't about Cade Cunningham, so if you want to watch something that isn't about Cade Cunningham, you'll find something else that you like on this channel. I want to talk about this. There's been a lot of discourse I've seen, a lot of unnecessary discourse, I would say. And for me, personally speaking, it's all just so stupid. It truly is so stupid. The Pistons should just draft Cade Cunningham, and that's that. Draft one of the best point guard prospects of the last 10 to 20 years and build around him. Draft one of the best prospects over the last 10 years and build around him. It's very simple. It truly is very simple. Cade Cunningham is a special talent. I would argue he's a generational talent. You may not agree with that, but that's just how I feel. There aren't many guys that are 6'8", 220 pounds, with a 7-foot wingspan, with his level of instincts, his level of feel for the game, and his kind of skill sets that have that kind of combination. And they put it all together. He can pass, he can score, he can rebound, he can defend, he's a great leader. He is all of it. He's everything you want in a franchise player. And I'm not going to, hark on these teams, or harp, I should say, not hark. What is this, that Charlie Brown special? Hark, oh my god. Harp on teams like Houston, teams like New Orleans, teams like OKC trying to trade up to the first pick to get him. Because personally speaking, I understand why a team would want to trade up to get Cade Cunningham, because he's that special of a talent. He's someone that can change a franchise. He's somebody that can lead your team to the promised land. He's that special of a prospect. But I don't understand why you would want to trade out of the position to get that prospect. Now, I know there's something that you could say about this, well, look at what happened in 2017. Markelle Fultz was this franchise game-changing talent. Boston traded down, and they ended up with the best player in that draft. That is true. That's also a very circumstantial situation. Markelle Fultz, if he doesn't get hurt, probably lives up to the hype. And it probably is a guard that you could consider one of the better guards in the league. Someone that I think may have made a few All-Star teams by now. I think Markelle Fultz, people forget Markelle Fultz was a special talent for the injuries. That whole situation should not be used to justify something like this. And I'm not saying it's out of the question that someone like Jalen Green or Evan Mobley ends up being better than Cade Cunningham in the long run. I definitely think that's something that's possible. Based off what we see now, I wouldn't bet on it. Because, again, you don't draft based off hypotheticals. What if? Now, if Evan Mobley and Jalen Green were close to Cade as prospects, they were super close. You could argue they're all on the same team. Then I would understand it a bit more. Because at that point, if they're all in the same tier, it's about preference more than anything. Do you want the big P&O creating guard wing hybrid? Do you want this elite athletic scoring guard? Or do you want this versatile two-way big man? And they all kind of have MVP kind of potential. If that was the case, I would understand a situation where you would want to trade down. Or maybe a team wants Cade more, but you feel comfortable with the other two being at least close to what Cade can be. I just don't see that. Cade, to me, has MVP kind of potential. I think Mobley has MVP kind of potential as well. But it's going to take a bit more time for him to get there. And it's going to take a bit more time, physically, for him to be ready for the NBA. And I also think his ceiling's a bit lower just because of the positional value. And, just things like that. Jalen Green is a bit of a step below an MVP level prospect, in my opinion. I think Jalen Green is definitely an All-NBA level prospect. Someone that you can see definitely in contention for that second and third team down the line for most of his career. Maybe sneaks into an MVP debate every once in a while. But really profiles more as a low-end number one, high-end number two, rather than a high-end number one like a Cade Cunningham does, or maybe even an Evan Mobley to a certain extent does. Although Mobley's more of a mid-level number one, but I think Cade has potential to be a high-end number one. And again, you just don't find players like Cade Cunningham often. I think you can maybe argue Evan Mobley, although, you do have guys like Chet Holmgren, you do have guys like Paul Bancaro, you have guys like Victor Wembanyama coming up in the next few years as big man prospects that also show elite versatility. Jabari Smith's another name I'd throw in there as well. So I definitely think that, there's a chance to get a guy like that. It's rare, but it's not impossible. Same with Jalen Green. Jalen Green's a great prospect. Don't get it twisted. I love Jalen Green as a prospect. He's so fun to watch. He's my easy number 3. Cade's my easy number 1, Mobley's my easy number 2, and Jalen Green is my easy number 3. He's an elite athlete, great flexibility, an elite scoring prospect. But the thing is, while maybe it's hard to project that prospect that would be on Green's level moving forward, I definitely think that there are some names that are going to come up over the next few years that are similar caliber prospect as Jalen Green. I don't know if there is going to be a prospect that is similar caliber to Cade Cunningham at the point guard spot over those next few years. There are definitely good point guard prospects that are going to pop up, obviously. John Montero, he's a name that comes to mind. You have DJ Wagner, Dior Johnson, Scooter Henderson. I'm a big Scooter Henderson fan. So there's great point guard prospects that are going to come through the league soon. However, none of them, I would say, are on the level of Cade Cunningham. I truly believe the only prospects that I believe are in a similar boat or are better than Cade as a prospect were Luka Doncic, who I believe is the best prospect of not only the last 10 years, but arguably the last, did I say next? I meant last 10 years and arguably the last 20 years as well. Luka Doncic might be the best. From 2000 to now, he probably is the best prospect I've ever seen. Or the best prospect in the world. Not I've ever seen, because I've only been scouting prospects since 2015. But the point being is Luka is arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest prospect ever, just because of the feel for the game, the frame, the skill, and what he was able to do in the second best league in the world at such a young age. I don't think that's ever going to be matched again. I think the only prospects that come to mind over the last 20 years that you could argue are better are LeBron. And that's high praise if the only one that probably is better or potentially better than you as a prospect is LeBron James. Because LeBron James is one of the 2 greatest basketball players ever. But I definitely think Luka is a name that I would confidently say was a better prospect than Cade. I think Zion was probably definitely a better prospect than Cade. But, outside those 2 names, there aren't really prospects I can think of since I started doing this that are definitively better. Marco Fultz, I think as a prospect was close, but he's not on Cade's level in my opinion. You look at, I'm trying to think of other names. In the future, actually, I think Victor Wembanyama has a chance and probably is a better prospect than Cade. I think actually probably, now that I think about it, Victor Wembanyama, as somebody said multiple times, is the best prospect in the world. He's just doing things at 7'2" that just don't make sense. Passing, scoring, rebounding, defending, all of it. It's just absurd. The movement skills at 7'2" at that young of an age. So really, I would say that, yeah, probably Wembanyama, Zion, and Luka, the only prospects I'd say were better than him. And I think he's not too far behind those guys, in my opinion. And then you might be saying, well, that might be a bit much. Look at his college stats. 20 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 4 assists per game. Didn't have a great assist turnover ratio, things like that. But the thing for me is you can't just look at those college stats. And it's something I've talked about a lot. When you watch Cade Cunningham play, and you watched the tape from his college days, he really was just forced into a role where he had to be a go-to scoring option. Where he had to be somebody that just was score first. It was a role he was forced into. It's not his natural role. He's definitely somebody that isn't a natural scorer. But I think, it was encouraging that he was willing to take on that role as that go-to scorer, despite not being somebody that's wired necessarily as a go-to scorer. So that's always an encouraging sign to me. But when you look at the previous levels, and people will say, oh, you can't look at those previous levels because he played weaker competition. Well, I would argue probably the talent around him at the previous levels was arguably better than what he had at Oklahoma State. Definitely at Montverde Academy, because that team has, when he was on Montverde, his senior year specifically, that team was special. You had him, obviously, who's the projected first overall pick. Scotty Barnes, who's projected to go in the top 10. Moses Moody, someone that is more projecting like late top 10, late lottery type. But I think he should be considered as high as number 5 in this draft. So that's 3 guys that I think have potential to go like top 10, top 5. You have Dalen Soap, who is like a late first round, mid second round kind of guy. So those are 4 players already that you look at and you say, okay, they're going to be in the NBA probably this year. Then you have, what's his name? Caleb Houston, who's been awesome for the Canadian national team, by the way. He's likely going to be in contention for a lottery pick in 2022. Derek Whitehead's one of the 5 best players in that 2022 recruiting class, in my opinion. So and those guys, and mind you, Derek Whitehead was coming off the bench for that team. Like that squad was a special team. And then obviously you had Ryan, I think one of the Nemhards, I forget which one. I believe it was Ryan. He's going to be playing Creighton. So you have a bunch of D1 guys coming off the bench, like a top 5 guy in his class coming off the bench. So yeah, again, I would just argue he had more talent. And same with FIBA, same with EYBL, and he averaged more assists. So I think he proved that in situations that allow him to be a passing playmaker, he's a very good one. Like, you just don't forget how to do those passes that he was throwing in high school on FIBA, on EYBL. You just don't forget how to do that stuff. I definitely think he had a lot more to do situation. Do I think he has turnover problems? Yeah, his handle's a bit loose at times. I definitely think he had handle turnovers. There were definitely times he did make bad passes. I'm not going to deny that. Sometimes he'll just see something, but, he just can't make the pass and he'll try to force it. Or sometimes he just, will throw it over the intended target's head just because of the fact that he's, just too tall. But I definitely think this is somebody, when he gets to the league and he's on an NBA team, he's going to average, 5+ assists per game as a rookie. I definitely think that's something that's not out of the question. Again, for Detroit, I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a lot. You guys know that. He's one of my favorite players in the league. I don't think the 6th pick in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is enough for Cade Cunningham. And again, that shows you how high I am on Cade Cunningham. Because if I don't think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and that top 6 pick are enough to move up to get Cade Cunningham, I think that shows you how special I think Cade Cunningham is. Because I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a bright future, like an all-NBA kind of future in his own right. But again, it goes to show you how good I think Cade is. Secondly, also, for OKC, that trade doesn't make sense because the whole point of trying to move up to get Cade Cunningham, I think, was the idea that you would pair Cade and SGA, not trade SGA for Cade, because I definitely think that, what's the whole dream? If the OKC Thunder got the first pick, Cade and SGA, that's going to be, an absurd backcourt for the next few years. I never thought, this idea. Hey, also, I'll talk about that in another video. The idea that you should trade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is ridiculous. And I'll probably do that in another video I'm uploading today. Because I'm only doing podcast-style videos today. No, regular channel stuff. I have a prospect file coming out on Sunday, so don't worry. But I just want to get some podcast stuff out. But to get back on track, Detroit, just draft Cade Cunningham. I know you aren't watching this video. I know a lot of Pistons fans probably won't make it to the end of this video. I know a lot of people won't make it to the end of these videos. But I just had a lot to say about this, because I just think it's stupid, the idea that Detroit would want to trade out of this pick or pick someone else. And again, this is no disrespect to Jalen Green or Evan Mobley. They're special prospects in their own right. They're just not as good as Cade Cunningham, in my opinion. And again, this speaks more to just how good I think Cade Cunningham could be. I know, again, the assist numbers were great. I know all that stuff. Trust me. But at the end of the day, I just feel like, you just don't pass up on this. Because you're not going to get a chance how to play like Cade Cunningham for a very long time. And, I think that, Detroit knows this. I think they're just throwing smoke screens out. And Cade Cunningham is going to be awesome in Detroit. But yeah, that's all I had to say. If you like these podcast style videos, subscribe. Thank you for made it to this point of the video. I don't just do podcast style videos. I obviously do on my main channel, obviously, which you're watching this on. I also do videos I actually put effort into, prospect profile videos, stuff about the NBA, all types of stuff. So if you enjoy any of these style of content that I make, whether it be the podcast style or the film essay style, subscribe. But yeah, have a nice day.